Let's start our first news with a bold prediction surrounding Usman Nurmagomedov and Ilya. Usman Nurmagomedov is currently making headlines after another impressive performance inside the PFL cage. On Friday night at PFL New York, Usman delivered a statement victory in the main event at UBS Arena, knocking out Archie Colgan in the very first round. The victory extended Usman's undefeated professional record to 22-0 and allowed him to retain his PFL lightweight championship. With another dominant performance under his belt, attention is now turning toward what could be next for the Dagestani star. Many fans and analysts believe Usman has already done enough in the PFL and should make the move to the UFC. And according to his manager, Ali Abdelaziz, that move could create some serious problems for the current UFC lightweight division. Abdelaziz believes Usman could even replicate one of the biggest recent victories in the division, involving Ilya. Justin Gaethje recently shocked the MMA world when he defeated Ilya, taking control of the lightweight division with a dominant performance. But Abdelaziz believes Usman could potentially do even more damage against Ilya if the two ever share the octagon. In his view, Usman possesses the speed, technique, wrestling, and overall fight IQ needed to give Ilya major problems. His undefeated record is also becoming increasingly difficult to ignore, especially after the way he dismantled Colgan in just one round. Usman has now established himself as one of the most dangerous lightweight fighters outside the UFC. If he eventually signs with the promotion, a matchup with elite contenders could come quickly. And if Abdelaziz's prediction becomes reality, Usman may not simply beat Ilya. He could potentially finish the job faster than Gaethje did. Move on to another news, and this one involves Alex Pereira making it clear that he has his eyes on another heavyweight title opportunity. Pereira believes he is not far away from another shot at UFC Gold, and he already has an idea of who he wants to face. During a recent Q&A ahead of UFC Belgrade, Pereira revealed that he wants to have one more fight before challenging the winner of Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane for the heavyweight championship. That puts Pereira in an interesting position, especially considering how quickly he has established himself as one of the most dangerous fighters in the UFC. After making his mark at light heavyweight, Pereira moved up to heavyweight and continued to show that his power can be a major threat against much larger opponents. Now, rather than waiting around for a title opportunity, he appears to want another fight to stay active and prove that he deserves to be right back in the championship conversation. The ultimate goal, however, is clear. Pereira wants the winner of Aspinall versus Gane. That matchup could determine the next heavyweight champion, and Pereira is positioning himself to be waiting in the wings. But the Q&A took an unexpected and somewhat awkward turn when a fan suddenly interrupted the event with a Cyril Gane chant. The fan announced that he did not have a question and instead had something to say. He then started loudly chanting Gane's name, drawing attention from everyone around him. The moment quickly became chaotic as the chant continued, with the crowd joining in and the fan shouting even louder. Pereira handled the bizarre situation calmly before the Q&A moved on. Still, the main message from Pereira was unmistakable. He wants one more fight, and then he wants a heavyweight title shot against the winner of Aspinall versus Gane. Move on to another news, and this time, Arman is making his position very clear regarding a potential fight with Charles Oliveira. Arman has revealed that he is not particularly interested in facing Charles Oliveira unless there is something major on the line. While a matchup between these two elite lightweights would certainly attract plenty of attention, Arman appears to have one specific condition before he agrees to step inside the octagon. In a new interview, Arman explained that he would only accept the fight without the BMF belt if the UFC guarantees him that a lightweight title shot would come next. That is a significant demand, especially considering where Arman currently stands in the division. He clearly does not want to take a high-profile fight simply for the sake of staying active. Instead, he wants to know that beating a former champion like Oliveira will directly move him closer to another opportunity at UFC Gold. Arman made his position straightforward. If the BMF title is not involved, then the fight does not seem particularly interesting to him. However, there is one situation that could immediately change his mind. If the UFC tells him that fighting Oliveira would make him the next contender for the lightweight championship, Arman says he would gladly accept the matchup. And that makes sense from a competitive standpoint. A fight against Oliveira would be a huge test. Oliveira is one of the most experienced and dangerous fighters in the lightweight division, with elite submission skills, dangerous striking, and the ability to finish opponents from almost anywhere. For Arman, defeating someone of Oliveira's caliber could provide another major statement victory. But he clearly wants that victory to mean something in the championship picture. The BMF belt could also change the equation. Without it, Arman appears unwilling to take the risk unless the UFC gives him a clear path toward the lightweight title. This could put the promotion in an interesting position. A matchup between Arman and Oliveira would have plenty of star power, but Arman wants a guarantee that the fight leads somewhere important. For now, his message is simple. No BMF belt, no problem, as long as the UFC promises him the next lightweight title shot. Otherwise, Arman does not seem interested in taking the fight. Move on to another news. And this one brings a hilarious moment involving Kamaru Usman, Islam Makhachev, and Justin Gaethje. Islam recently ran into Kamaru Usman and Justin Gaethje at PFL New York, and what started as a normal interaction quickly turned into some classic MMA trash talk. The fighters were chatting and checking out some of the equipment when Kamaru decided to have a little fun at Gaethje's expense. The focus suddenly shifted toward Gaethje's noticeably bigger belly, giving Usman the perfect opportunity to start trolling him. Kamaru appeared to be checking out Gaethje's gloves and other gear, saying that he liked almost everything he was seeing. But then, he pointed out one thing that he apparently was not a fan of: Gaethje's belly. The comment immediately created a funny moment between the fighters, with Kamaru continuing to tease Gaethje about his physique. Instead of taking the joke seriously, Gaethje fired back with a hilarious response of his own. He basically reminded everyone that he simply does not look like Kamaru, making it clear that he was not about to let the trolling go unanswered. The exchange was lighthearted, but it showed the kind of playful relationship that exists between these elite fighters. Gaethje has built his reputation on being one of the toughest and most aggressive competitors in the sport. He is known for his incredible conditioning, devastating leg kicks, and willingness to stand directly in front of his opponents and trade heavy shots. But even a fighter as dangerous as Gaethje can become the target of some friendly trolling when he is surrounded by other UFC stars. Islam was also present during the interaction, adding another big name to an already entertaining group. With Kamaru doing the talking and Gaethje trying to defend himself, the conversation quickly became one of those unexpected MMA moments that fans love to see. There was no serious tension involved, just fighters having fun and giving each other a hard time. Still, Kamaru was clearly not going to let Gaethje leave without getting at least one joke in. And Gaethje's response made the whole exchange even better. He essentially accepted the joke while reminding everyone that he is simply built differently. It was a short interaction, but definitely one of the more entertaining moments from PFL New York. Move on to another news. And this time, Dana White is warning that Ian Machado, Garry, could be a serious threat to Islam Makhachev under one important scenario. The UFC is heading back to the United States after making its debut in Serbia with UFC Belgrade, and the next major event is already generating plenty of attention. Following another fight night at the Meta Apex, the promotion will return to Philadelphia for UFC 330 on August 15th. The main event is set to feature a highly anticipated welterweight title fight between Islam Makhachev and Ian Machado Garry. On paper, Islam enters the matchup as the significant favorite. The former lightweight champion has already established himself as one of the most dominant fighters in the sport, and moving up to welterweight has only increased the excitement surrounding his championship run. However, Dana White believes this fight could become much more complicated depending on how the action unfolds. White sees the matchup as a classic striker versus grappler contest. Islam's biggest strength is his ability to control opponents with elite wrestling, pressure, and submission skills. Garry, meanwhile, has developed a reputation as a dangerous and highly technical striker who can make life extremely difficult for anyone trying to take him down. And that is where the UFC president believes Garry could become a serious problem. According to White, Islam's chances of winning could depend heavily on his ability to get the fight to the ground. But Garry has proven that stopping takedowns and keeping the fight standing is one of the most important parts of his game. If Garry can consistently defend Islam's wrestling attempts, the entire dynamic of the fight could change. Instead of allowing Islam to control the pace from the top position, Garry could force him into a striking battle where his reach, timing, movement, and precision could become major advantages. That does not mean Islam should be counted out. Far from it. Islam has repeatedly shown that he can adapt, impose his style, and find ways to neutralize dangerous opponents. But the challenge here is clear. Getting Garry to the mat could be much harder than it looks. Dana White's comments add another layer of intrigue to a fight that already has massive implications for the welterweight division. If Garry can keep the fight standing, he could make UFC 330 much more competitive than the odds suggest. Move on to another news, and this time, Khabib Nurmagomedov is sending a clear message about Usman's potential move to the UFC. Usman is currently one of the biggest names in MMA after delivering another spectacular performance in his final contracted PFL bout. The lightweight champion scored a devastating knockout victory in New York, extending his undefeated record and immediately creating major speculation about where he will fight next. With Usman entering free agency, the entire MMA world is watching closely. His cousin and coach, Khabib, has already made his position clear. He believes Usman has proven himself as the best lightweight fighter competing outside the UFC. Khabib also suggested that there are different levels in mixed martial arts, and fans will soon get the opportunity to see exactly where Usman stands against the UFC's elite. According to Khabib, intense negotiations are expected to take place over the next month, meaning Usman's next destination could become clear very soon. There are already signs that the UFC is interested. Dana White appeared to hint at Usman's arrival with a social media post, adding even more fuel to the speculation. However, former UFC fighter and Usman's teammate Josh Thompson offered another interesting perspective. Thompson explained that Usman could potentially consider taking a lucrative fight outside the UFC before making the move. He pointed out that Usman is already earning very good money in the PFL, potentially more than almost everyone in the UFC lightweight division except the champion. That creates an important decision for the undefeated star. Why rush into the UFC if he can continue making significant money while facing opponents he is capable of defeating? Thompson also suggested that Usman is still young and has plenty of time to build his legacy. At the same time, the UFC could offer Usman something money cannot always provide: the opportunity to prove himself against the best fighters in the world. With negotiations approaching, Usman's next move could shape the future of the lightweight division in a major way. Move on to another news, and this time, Dana White appears to have shut down hopes of a UFC event in Spain anytime soon. Spanish MMA fans have been waiting for years to see the UFC bring a major event to the country. With Ilya as one of Spain's biggest MMA stars, many believed his popularity could eventually help bring the promotion to Spanish soil. However, those hopes took a hit following Saturday's post-press conference after UFC Belgrade. Dana White explained that holding a UFC Fight Night or numbered event in Spain has been difficult for the promotion. According to the UFC president, the organization would have already held an event there if the process had been easier. White made it clear that Spain has presented unique challenges, and he rarely speaks publicly about locations where the UFC has struggled to organize an event. He specifically pointed to difficulties surrounding the country's political situation and suggested that getting the UFC into Spain has not been straightforward. During the press conference, White also made comments referring to a recent immigration incident involving migrants crossing the border in Ceuta, adding another layer of controversy to his remarks. Despite all the difficulties, however, White did not completely close the door. Instead, he suggested that the UFC would continue trying to figure it out. That means Spanish fans may still have a chance to see the octagon in their country someday, but it does not appear to be happening in the immediate future. The situation is especially frustrating for fans because Spain already has a massive MMA audience, and the presence of stars like Ilya gives the UFC a major potential attraction. For now, though, the UFC appears to be facing significant logistical and political obstacles. Dana White's comments made one thing clear: bringing a UFC event to Spain has been far more complicated than expected. The door is not completely closed, but Spanish fans may have to wait a little longer before they finally get to see the UFC bring its biggest stars to their home country.